All right, what I got for you today, did a little bit too much work for it to be a short video, but we're not going to make this a long one. I wanted to put together something that showed where the Bears will realistically end up. I also did a couple other scenarios with the predictors that show the Bears could be a playoff team if they win out. It's possible, so we have something to be excited for. But what I've got here is I've got two different things up top here. We've got the ESPN predictor model. This is how things would end up if everything goes chalk, according to what ESPN predicts. So the Bears would have the number 1 overall pick and the number 10 overall pick. And at the bottom is the complete draft order with the Bears 6 picks. So 1, 10, then they'd have 74, 114, 134, and 152. And what I've color coded in there is what I think the Bears' top needs are. And no, number 1 is not quarterback. Number 1 is receiver, then defensive end, then safety, then offensive tackle, then quarterback, then tight end, then center, interior offensive line. I would have put center, interior offensive line higher, except with this draft class, I think it's crucially important that the Bears pick up a center in free agency, and who I have targeted is Connor Williams. I put that on a couple different videos. So I really hope the Bears go after him. There's a couple other centers I like as well, but he's my favorite, so I'm honing in and focusing on him. But with this, it shows, the highlighted areas you see in round 1, above 1 through 3. That's where Marvin Harrison Jr. will go. So this is according to where players that I've targeted and highlighted, where I think the Bears will hit their key needs, where they would be drafted. And it's not just ones that I love, but it's also some of the consensus ones, and it's according to average draft predictor by the main predictor models. And so that 1 through 3 would be Marvin Harrison Jr. only. And the problem with ESPN's predictor model is if Arizona ends up at 2-15, you don't know if the Cardinals are in the exact same boat as the Bears if they're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. So that's what makes it hard to trade down. If the Cardinals are 2-15, that means Kyler Murray is not what they wanted to be, and they most likely are going with the new quarterback. But the same as the Bears, if the Bears are 6-11, they could be in the same boat as well. Even though I don't love it, I have full-fledged made it known that I am Team Justin Fields. I think he should be our quarterback of the future, and we should make other changes to make it work. But if we're 6-11, who knows what polls will do? I think he's committed to Fields, but we'll see. Makes it a lot easier if we end up 8-9 or 9-8. Makes that decision a lot easier. Now, obviously, if we end up 4-13, that's a whole different story, and we're going to be picking 1st and 4th, and we probably will take a quarterback. But if we're picking 1st and 10th, I don't think we're in the same boat, and that makes it harder because right now all the predictors have us at 1-4, which is not where we're going to end up. We have one of the easier schedules running out, so it's going to be harder to trade that second one down. And you see that first pick is at 1, and the second pick is at 10, and right at 10 is where we need to pick up a defensive end between 10 and 19. That's where Jared Verse, Dallas Turner, Liatu Latu, Chop Robinson, that's where all those guys are predicted to go, all 4 of them. Now, some of them probably won't go right in that range. Some will last into the mid to end of the first round. One might drop out of the first round. It always happens every year, but you can't count on that. So when we fall in love with our defensive end, we've got to pick him up right there in the 10 to 19 range. If we're picking number 4 overall, it makes it easier to drop down into, say, 10 is the maximum we want to go down, maybe 9, so we can make sure we get our guy if we love Jared Verse. Drop down from 4 to 9, we pick up some capital. Because as it stands now, we only have 6 picks. And 3 of those picks are really out of the range of picking up the quality guy that you really want to snag, the guy that you really desire. You can pick him up for. So I've got my wide receivers. I want to pick up 2 of them. So I've got the first one between 1 and 3. The second ones would be between 13 and 24. And those guys that are predicted to go would be Malik Neighbors, Mika Ibuka, Keon Coleman, and Rome Odunze. Those guys are all predicted between 13 and 23 on consensus picks. And then you can see I have another red down between 89 and 113 because I think we should definitely pick up a second receiver in that second tier of receivers that are still high quality. I think it's number 10 through 15 receivers overall, but those are guys you have like Torrey Horton, Roman Wilson, Tez Walker, and Brennan Rice. I really like Brennan Rice a lot. I think he's undervalued. If we could pick him up at 113, 114, that would be awesome. And then I've got our interior offensive linemen, and those are all going to fall between that 81 and 93 range as things stand right now. Those are the guys you have: Jackson Powers Johnson, Christian Mahogany, Christian Haynes, and Zach Frazier. I like Zach Frazier in that group. And then the tight ends, you can see I've got between 99 and 111. And there's Shaheem Bell, Cade Stover, and Luke Lackey. It would be awesome if we had the draft capital to pick up Brock Bowers somewhere in the 5 to 10 range, but that's probably not going to happen. So what you see here with everything we have, if we want to pick up an elite receiver, which is Marvin Harrison Jr., and we want to pick up defensive end, and we pick 1 and 10, and we want to pick up additional draft capital, say we want to pick up a safety, and the main safeties are all going to fall in that second round between pick 42 and 47. That's Tyler Nubin, Cameron Kitchens, Javon Bullard, Rod Moore, Kalen Bullock. And I completely understand that these aren't accurate because Cameron Kitchens will probably go in the first round. But these are the consensus big boards. So this is the average of what all of them say, and some of them are just off. So Cameron Kitchens will probably go in the first round. So will Tyler Nubin, honestly, with how he's been playing. But you've got those 5 guys that are all predicted right now, consensus between 42 and 47. So if we want to pick one of those guys up, we've got to drop down. We've got to trade down one of our picks. So do you give up Marvin Harrison Jr. and trade down to 3, hoping he'll still be there, but the Cardinals could pick him at number 2? And if they don't, we snag him at 3. Or do we just trade down right off the bat into 13 to 20 range, knowing we can pick up a Malik Neighbors and a Mika, Keon Coleman, and Roman Dunze? We can pick up one of those guys and pick up some major draft capital from trading down from 1 to there, and pick up a first next year, multiple seconds, a second this year, a third this year. I mean, that's the dilemma. And these are the things that Ryan Poles has to go over when he's evaluating all this stuff. How do you pass up on a Marvin Harrison Jr., generational talent, the likes of Megatron, possibly even better? That's hard to say if anyone hasn't gone pro yet, but I mean, that's the type of talent he has. So how do you pass up on that? But what he was left with was extreme lack of draft capital from Ryan Pace. So we're still trying to overcome that, and that's why they've prefaced before this season and through this season, this isn't a one-year rebuild, and the thing they constantly say is brick by brick. You don't hear as much more in the preseason, and leading into the beginning of the season, that was always what you heard, brick by brick. And that's why, because, yeah, we traded away the 6th round this year. Traded around the 2nd round to get Sweat. Those are the things we needed. If we didn't have Sweat, we would have the 2nd rounder. But look at where all the defensive ends that are elite, high end, and not even necessarily Sweat caliber. I mean, maybe one of these guys will hit to be like Sweat, but that's all just projections at this point. There's no guarantee. And honestly, he is more elite than any of these guys, and he fell in that same range in the 1st round. And part of that was because of his history. He probably would have gone top 10 easily if he didn't have his history in college. So I think that was actually a stellar move by Ryan Poles to get Sweat and to extend him. I said that from the start. There's a lot of criticism. Whatever, it's over, it's done. Can't get that pick back. But if we had that 2nd rounder, we would need 2 defensive ends. So it would be an even tougher position. But as of now, we really need a couple wide receivers, defensive end, safety, an offensive tackle. That's debatable. Braxton Jones has been playing lights out, and if he finishes the year the way he is now, that offensive tackle goes from our 4th overall need down to our 7th or 8th overall need, and you don't need to pick up someone. So the offensive tackle, you can see there's the 4 through 10 range. That's because that's where Olu Fashanu and Joe Alt right now are projected to go. But I don't necessarily think that's our biggest need to take one in the 1st round, top 10. So focus more on wide receiver and defensive end in the 1st round. And then that 38, you see 38 through 58 range, you've got Talise Fuaga, you've got Jordan Morgan, you've got Patrick Paul, who's my favorite in that whole group. I would love for us to pick Patrick Paul up in the 2nd round. Troy Fontenot. All those guys, those 5 guys, all fall in that same range. So you're going to have a lot of 2nd round offensive tackles that we can snag if we can get draft capital there. But we've got to be able to get a couple second round picks there to really pick the elite end up. So can we drop down from 1 to 3 and still get Marvin Harrison Jr.? Can we drop down to 1 and 3? And if we don't get him, drop down again, a double trade down from 3 to 13. And someone who wants to trade up for if Harrison Jr. is gone, then obviously someone's going to want to trade up for quarterback. You got Tampa Bay there at 12, according to this, according to ESPN's predictor. So if you got Tampa Bay at 12, you get a ton of draft capital for them. From 3 to 12, you get a ton. And then you could have multiple second rounds from dropping down from 1 to 3. And then from 3 to 12, and you could pick up your safety. You could pick up your tackle in the second round. You can pick up a wide receiver in the first round. That wouldn't be Marvin Harrison Jr., but you can get Malik Neighbors. You can get Keon Coleman. You can get Roland Dunze. So there are so many options. There's a lot to think about when you go over this. And you can pick up a third rounder and all that too. I mean, there's so much draft capital you can pick up and all that the name of the game here is maximizing value. And if there's one guy that I truly trust to do that, that's Ryan Poles. That's why I think his job is secure. He's not pulling the garbage, the wasting capital, wasting players, wasting everything to cash in now. He's not mortgaging the future for the now like Ryan Pace and other GMs do. So I think we're in good shape, especially with the draft capital, even if we're at 110. If the Bears make the playoffs, if they go 9-8 and they which they would probably make the playoffs at that point, because they would edge out the Packers with that final win, and the Vikings, then you've got us picking somewhere in the 19-20 range. So that makes it even harder, but your future is so much better because we just made the playoffs. There's so much momentum to build from there. So I mean, it's a win-win or a win-lose on different avenues of that. So this would be kind of cool for you guys to see where ESPN's playoff predictor has us if the season turns out the way it's predicted to go as of here to the end. Give you an idea of where we pick, where the main key players are within there. I didn't really go over all of the positions, but for example, quarterback, I don't think we need a quarterback that's one of the top elite quarterbacks. I think we can pick later on. Some of the quarterbacks I have in the 5th round right now are Joe Milton, Jalen Daniels, Tyler Van Dyke, and Jordan Travis. I think those are all solid backup quarterbacks, which is what we need. We've got Justin Fields and Tyson Bagent, and then you have a backup quarterback that we can bring in the third string as a developmental quarterback. So I don't see that as a pressing need. And then the same with tight end. We've got Cole Kmet as a solid, one of the top 5 tight ends in the league, in my opinion, both receiving and blocking, and bring someone in behind him and then re-sign Robert Tonyan to a 1-year deal with another tight end like Jaheim Cade Stover, Blackie. They're at the end of the 3rd or 4th round. So kind of fun to look at. Let me know your thoughts, comments you might have. Hit the like button and subscribe if you would, please. I'm just trying to build this thing and just trying to grow it. Just starting off, just getting it going. So let me know your thoughts, any comments or suggestions you have. And until next time, down.